guys, it's Moonglow ASMR. I hope that you are doing well. Today's video, I am going to be reading you some stories to help you fall asleep. Thank you for listening. I hope I was able to help you today. Alright, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Let me read you some stories to help you go to sleep. Sleep, sleep. Clear your mind. Shove all of those worries and frustrations and pain. Shove it out of the way and let me read to you and let you relax and get calm and fall asleep. Sleep, sleep. Today I'm going to read, we'll start out with The Tale of Ginger and Pickles. Once upon a time, there was a village shop. The name over the window was Ginger and Pickles. It was a little small shop, just the right size for dolls. Lucinda and Jane Doll Cook always bought their groceries at Ginger and Pickles. The counter inside was a convenient height for rabbits. Ginger and Pickles sold red, spotty pocket handkerchiefs at a penny 3 farthings. They also sold sugar and snuff and galoshes. In fact, although it was such a small shop, it sold nearly everything except for a few things that you want in a hurry, like bootlaces, hairpins, and mutton chops. Ginger and Pickles were the people who kept the shop. Ginger was a yellow tomcat, and Pickles was a terrier. The rabbits were always a little bit afraid of Pickles. The shop was also patronized by mice, only the mice were rather afraid of Ginger. Ginger usually requested Pickles to serve them because he said it made his mouth water. I cannot bear, he said, to see them going out at the door carrying their little parcels. I have the same feeling about rats, said Pickles, but it would never do to eat our own customers. You would leave us and go to Tabitha's. On the contrary, they would go nowhere, replied Ginger gloomily. Ginger and Pickles gave unlimited credit. Now, the meaning of credit is this: when a customer buys a bar of soap instead of the customer pulling out a purse and paying for it, she says she will pay another time. And Pickles makes a low bow and says, with pleasure, madam, and it is written down in a book. The customers come again and again and buy quantities in spite of being afraid of Ginger and Pickles. But there is no money in what is called the till. The customers come in crowds every day and bought quantities, especially the toffee customers. But there was always no money. They never paid for as much as a penny's worth of peppermint. But the sales were enormous, 10 times as large as Tabitha's. As there was always no money, Ginger and Pickles were obligated to eat their own goods. Pickles ate biscuits and Ginger ate a dried haddock. They ate them by the candlelight after the shop was closed. When it came to January 1st, there was still no money, and Pickles was unable to buy a dog license. "It is very unpleasant. I am afraid of the police," said Pickles. "It is your own fault for being a terrier. I do not require a license, and neither does Kip, the collie dog." "It is very uncomfortable. I am afraid I shall be summoned. I have tried in vain to get a license upon credit at the post office," said Pickles. "The place is full of policemen. I met one as I was coming home." "Let us send in the bill again to Samuel Whiskers. Ginger says he owes for bacon." "I do not believe that he intends to pay at all," says Ginger. "And I feel sure that Anna Marie pockets things. Where are all the cream crackers?" "You have eaten them yourself," replied Ginger. Ginger and Pickles retired into the back parlor. They did accounts. They added up sums and sums and sums. "Samuel Whiskers has run up a bill as long as his tail, and he has had an ounce and 3/4 of snuff since October. What is 7 pounds of butter at 1 1/3, a stick of sealing wax, and 4 matches? Send in all the bills again to everyone with comps," replied Ginger. After a time, they heard a noise in the shop, as if something had been pushed in at the door. They came out of the back parlor. There was an envelope lying on the counter, and a policeman writing in a notebook. Pickles nearly had a fit. He barked and he barked, and made little rushes. "Bite him, Pickles, bite him," sputtered Ginger behind a sugar barrel. "It's only a German doll." The policeman went on writing in his notebook. Twice he put his pencil in his mouth, and once he dipped it in the trace. Pickles barked till he was hoarse, but still the policeman took no notice. He had bead eyes, and his helmet was sewn on with stitches. At length, on his last little rush, Pickles found that the shop was empty. The policeman had disappeared, but the envelope remained. "Do you think that he has gone to fetch a real live policeman?" "I am afraid it is a summons," said Pickles. "No," replied Ginger, who had opened the envelope. "It is the rate and taxes." "This is the last straw," said Pickles. "Let us close the shop." They put up the shutters and left, but they have not removed from the neighborhood. In fact, some people wish they had gone further. Ginger is living in the Warren. I do not know what occupation he pursues. He looks stout and comfortable. Pickles is at present a gameskeeper. The closing of the shop caused great inconvenience. Tabitha immediately raised the price of everything a halfpenny, and she continued to refuse to give credit. Of course, there are the tradesmen's carts, the butcher, the fishman, the Timothy baker, but a person cannot live on sea wigs and sponge cake and butter buns, not even when a sponge cake is as good as Timothy's. After a time, Mr. John Dormouse and his daughter began to sell peppermints and candies, but they did not keep self-fitting sixes, and it takes 5 mice to carry one 7-inch candle. Besides, the candles which they sell behave very strangely in warm weather, and Miss Dormouse refused to take back the ends when they were brought back to her with complaints. And when Mr. John Dormouse was complained to, he stayed in bed and would say nothing but very snug, which is not the way to carry a retail business. So everyone was pleased when Sally Hennypenny sent out a print poster to say that she was going to reopen the shop. Henny's opening sale, grand cooperative jumble pennies, penny prices. Come by, come try, come by. The poster really was fantastic. There was a rush upon the opening day. The shop was crammed with customers, and there were crowds of mice upon the biscuit containers. Sally Hennypenny gets rather flustered when she tries to count out change, and she insists on being paid cash, but she is quite harmless, and she has laid in a remarkable assortment of bargains. There is something to please everybody. The end. Alright, how about one more story? This one is titled The Tale of Miss Tittlemouse. Once upon a time, there was a wood mouse, and her name was Miss Tittlemouse. She lived in a bank under a hedge. Such a funny house. There were yards and yards of sandy passages leading to storerooms and nut cellars and seed cellars, all amongst the root of the hedge. There was a kitchen, a parlor, a pantry, and a larder. Then also there was Miss Tittlemouse's bedroom, where she slept in a little box bed. Miss Tittlemouse was a most terrible, tidy, particular little mouse, always sweeping and dusting the soft, sandy floors. Sometimes a beetle lost its way in the passage. Shh, little dirty feet, said Miss Tittlemouse, clattering her dustpan. And one day a little old woman ran up and down in a red spotty cloak. Your house is on fire. Mother Ladybug, fly away home to your children. Another day, a big fat spider came into shelter from the rain. Beg pardon, this is not Miss Muffet's. Go away, you bold bad spider, leaving ends of cobwebs all over my nice clean house. She bundled the spider out at a window. He let himself down the hedge with a long, thin bit of string. Miss Tittlemouse went on her way to a distant storeroom to fetch cherry stones and a thistledown seed for dinner. All along the passage she sniffed and looked at the floor. I smell a smell of honey. Is it the cowslips outside in the hedge? I am sure I can see marks of little dirty feet. Suddenly, round a corner, she met Babbity Bumble. Zip, biz, biz, said the bumblebee. Miss Tittlemouse looked at her severely. She wished that she had a broom. Good day, Bibbity Bumble. I should be glad to buy some beeswax, but what are you doing down here? Why do you always come in at a window and say, "Ziz, biz, biz"? Miss Tittlemouse began to get cross. "Ziz, whiz, whiz," replied Babbity Bumble. In a peeved squeak, she sidled down a passage and disappeared into a storeroom which had been used for acorns. Miss Tittlemouse had eaten the acorns before Christmas. The storeroom ought to have been empty, but it was full of untidy, dry moss. Miss Tittlemouse began to pull out the moss. 3 or 4 other bees put their heads out and buzzed fiercely. I am not in the habit of letting lodgings. This is an intrusion, said Miss Tittlemouse. I will have them turned out. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I wonder who would help me. Biz, whiz, whiz. I will not have Mr. Jackson. He never wipes his feet. Miss Tittlemouse decided to leave the bees till after dinner. When she got back to the parlor, she heard someone coughing in a fat voice. There sat Mr. Jackson himself. He was sitting all over a small rocking chair, twiddling his thumbs and smiling, and his feet were on the fender. He lived in a drain below the hedge, in a very dirty, wet ditch. How do you do, Mr. Jackson? Dearie me, you have got very wet. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Miss Tittlemouse. I'll sit a while and dry myself, said Mr. Jackson. He sat and smiled, and the water dripped off his coat-tails. Miss Tittlemouse went round with the mop. He sat such a while that he had to be asked if he would take some dinner. First she offered him cherry stones. Thank you, Miss Tittlemouse. No teeth, no teeth, no teeth, said Mr. Jackson. He opened his mouth most unnecessarily wide. He certainly had not a tooth in his head. Then she offered him thistledown seed. Tidily, widely, widely, poof, poof, puff, said Mr. Jackson. He blew this thistledown all over the room. Thank you, Miss Tittlemouse. But what I really, really would like would be a little dish of honey. I am afraid I have not got any, Mr. Jackson, said Miss Tittlemouse. Diddly, widdly, waddly, Miss Tittlemouse, said the smiling Mr. Jackson. I can smell it. That is why I came to call. Mr. Jackson rose ponderously from the table and began to look into the cupboards. Miss Tittlemouse followed him with a dishcloth to wipe his large wet footmarks off the parlor floor. When he had convinced himself that there was no honey in the cupboards, he began to walk down the passage. Indeed, you will stick fast, Mr. Jackson. Diddly, widely, widely, Miss Titmouse. First he squeezed into the pantry. Diddly, widely, widely, no honey, Miss Tittlemouse. There were 3 creepy crawly people hiding in the plate rack. 2 of them got away, but the littlest one he caught. Then he squeezed into the larder. Miss Butterfly was tasting the sugar, but she flew away out of the window. Miss Tittlemouse, you seem to have plenty of visitors, and without any invitation. Miss Tittlemouse said. They went along the sandy passage. Buzz, whiz, whiz. He met Babbity around a corner and snatched her up and put her down again. I do not like bumblebees. They are all over bristles, Mr. Jackson, wiping his mouth with his coat sleeve. Get out, you nasty old toad string. Babbity Bumble. I shall go distracted, scolded Miss Tittlemouse. She shut herself up in the nut cellar while Mr. Jackson pulled out the bee's nest. He seemed to have no objection to stings. When Miss Tittlemouse ventured to come out, everybody had gone away. But the untidiness was something dreadful. Never did I see such a mess. Smears of honey and moss and thistledown and marks of big and little dirty feet all over my nice clean house. She gathered up the moss and the remains of the beeswax. Then she went out and fetched some twigs to partly close up the front door. I will make it too small for Mr. Jackson. She fetched soft soap and flannel and a new scrubbing brush from the storeroom, but she was too tired to do any more. First she fell asleep in her chair, and then she went to bed. Will it ever be tidy again? Said poor Miss Tittlemouse. Next morning she got up very early and began a spring cleaning which lasted a fortnight. She swept and scrubbed and dusted, and she rubbed up the furniture with beeswax and polished her little tin spoons. When it was all beautifully neat and clean, she gave a party to 5 other little mice without Mr. Jackson. He smelt the party and came up the bank, but he could not squeeze in at the door. So they handed him out acorn cupfuls of honey dew through the window, and he was not at all offended. He sat outside in the sun and said, Your very good health, Miss Tittlemouse." The end. Alright. That's gonna be it for tonight. Hopefully that helped you fall asleep, even if these stories were a little